Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Santa Barbara Zen Center. Great to see you all. It is my pleasure to introduce our speaker this morning via Zoom, and you will be hearing from Charlie Korin Pokorny. And Charlie was ordained as a priest by Reb Anderson in 1999 and received Dharma transmission in 2018. He practiced as a resident at Tassajara and Green Gulch Farm and studied koans with Daniel Terragno. Charlie and his partner Sarah served as head priests at Stone Creek Zen Center from 2014 to 2022, and they are currently Dharma teachers at Brooklyn Zen Center. Charlie also teaches courses through the Institute of Buddhist Studies at Berkeley. And this morning, I think Charlie's title, and he can clarify this, is that everyone is a light. So Charlie, welcome. It's really great to have you with us.
Thank you very much. Good morning to you. It's kind of afternoon here. And yeah, thank you very much for having me. And yeah, I want to start just with just bringing up some inquiries that I'm practicing with. And these would include like what is the ground of my life? What is the ground of our life together with all beings? How do I care for this ground? Or we could also say, like, what is my center? Or what am I really here for? And how do I live from a sense of the shared miracle and dignity of being alive? And how this isn't actually an individual thing. This isn't something I can do by myself. And I'm not really looking for like an idea, with these inquiries or a philosophy or answers, but something embodied, felt, like intimate. And so there's this request bringing me to practice, to feel into, this ground, and for this ground then to kind of be expressed in my daily relations, in my daily struggles, and my moral commitments. So what's resourcing me to meet suffering, my own, others, collective suffering? What's sustaining me in meeting, like meeting the pain and harm, the dehumanization and violence of this time in a way that's informed by compassion and courage and clarity and fortitude. And that's actually, and resilience. So with these inquiries, I'd like to bring up a koan. And so this is a Zen story from a Zen teacher named Yunmen. And Yunmen lived 864 to 949 in China. And on a few occasions, he would address the assembly at the monastery where he taught. And he would say, everyone has a light. When you look at it, you don't see it, and it's dark and dim. What is everybody's light? So first, or here, maybe I'll just say that again. Everyone has a light. When you look at it, you don't see it, and it's dark and dim. What is everybody's light? And so, he's offering this affirmation. Everyone has a light. And light is an image, I would say sometimes we also hear the concept, like Buddha nature, or true nature, or original awakening. And sometimes we meet other expressions in Zen, your original face before you were born, or the treasure buried right beneath your feet, or true self, or unborn Buddha mind. And Suzuki Roshi, you know, Shunryu Suzuki, that he brought the lineage of Soto Zen that's practiced through San Francisco Zen Center and the branching streams that come from San Francisco Zen Center. He brought that lineage to California like around 50 years ago, over 50 years ago. He talks about how practice is not getting things to put in your basket. It's more like finding something in your sleeve, like finding a light, finding an invaluable jewel that's somehow already there. And this isn't something we can force. It's not really a result of doing or getting or figuring something out. It's not something we make. And we can't, when we look for it, it's dark and dim. We can't see it. And it's like this source. It's like the real resource of compassion, connection, freedom, wisdom, love, creativity. So how to care for this light? How is it to ground in and to sit still in and to be resourced in the presence of, everyone has a light. And part of caring for this is inquiring. So he also says, what is everybody's light? And and this was something he wanted people to ask, not just once, but for it's like a lifetime inquiry. So the way we have it translated, and I think this is kind of reflects actually the Chinese, everyone has a light. But I would say like part of how I don't see it is it's not really something I have, right? It's not a thing at all. It's not really deep inside. It's not outside. The Nirvana Sutra, very important sutra for Buddha nature teaching in China. So, part of the context in which Yunmen offers his teaching, the Nirvana Sutra says all beings have Buddha nature. And Dogen, who, brings, founds Soto Zen in Japan, 13th century teacher. Dogen took this teaching from the Nirvana Sutra, all beings have Buddha nature, and he turned it. So all beings, whole being is Buddha nature. All beings, whole being is Buddha nature. So it's not a something. It's also not fixed. If I try to see it, it's dark and dim. It's like an ungraspable wholeness. And we're in it together. In the sense of this light, you're whole. We are whole, and we can't become more or less whole. But I can doubt, or I can turn away from my wholeness. And I can also let go of doubt. Doubt can relax. And sitting upright and fully awake, relax totally into this wholeness. A deep root of suffering, or maybe, in some ways, for Zen, like the root of suffering is losing sense of my wholeness. Or on the other way this happens, getting involved in appearances of separation, isolation, disconnection, this is what grasping gives me. This is what, like all my knowing how things appear through knowing is with some experience of separation. And so that's the root of suffering. And I can't really address the root of suffering with like the branches of suffering. Like knowing and grasping, I can find all sorts of things I might fix or change about myself to relieve suffering. But those would be approaches based on, based on elaborations of suffering. And they're just going to be elaborations of suffering. They'll perpetuate suffering in this kind of root sense. I think there's some kinds of things, some problems that can be solved and fixed and changed, but the root, the ground, it's not like the fixing kind of changing mind can't address that. It won't help me there. I can't see it. It's dark and dim. So what's an approach based on a light, based on wholeness? How am I resourced by this ungraspable wholeness? Or by a light I can't see? And sometimes I feel like this is sort of like a hard sell. There are kind of so many wonderful and exciting things to grasp or to get or to consume. And like Zen is over here, like, well, we have this liberating light, but actually it can't be grasped. It can't be apprehended. And I can look. All these wonderful and exciting things I can grasp. Are any of them a reliable resource for sustaining love and fulfillment and engagement? How do any of these things really resource me in what I'm really here for? There's lots of things I might want. In Brooklyn, sometimes I have a desire for a bigger apartment. You might have a desire for a nicer home. Sometimes we might have desires for more wealth. I really like donuts. Sometimes I would like an amazing donut. I've had pain in my back, so sometimes I'd like less pain in my back, or I might want just better health or good health. And all these things are totally fine. And all these things it's fine that these things might make me happier for a little time, but they're not really the joy of the bodhisattva. They're not really the joy of practice. They're not the enjoyment of this light. And the joy of compassion lives, in actually in a kind of pain that I feel for people and beings I love when they suffer. And that's a pain and a joy of connection, of relationship, of shared truth, and of this wholeness. All beings, whole being is Buddha nature. Suzuki Roshi, he also taught, try not to see something in particular. Try not to achieve anything special. You already have everything in your own pure quality. So this really speaks to me also. This everyone has a light. Everyone is a light. When I really appreciate this, when I open to this, when it becomes the ground of my life, when my trust in this light grows and deepens, it's not that my suffering goes away. It's not that my pain and difficulty go away. Actually, they don't. They're actually part of the wholeness. It's only actually by completely embracing them that I can open to the wholeness. I can't open to the wholeness and only be attending to like segments or fragments of my life. But when I open to this wholeness, I'm resourced to meet my suffering and to open liberation with suffering. And so like our Zen freedom is not escapist. Sometimes like when people talk to me about their meditation practice and they're like, well, this period of meditation was really good. Like I was just really, really calm, and it was just like really, and it was very pleasant, and there was no pain, and it was very easeful. And I'm like, well, that sounds like a nice vacation. And then someone comes and tells me my meditation was really bad. I kept on seeing over and over again, I'm getting caught in my thinking, I'm getting caught in my thinking. And then this other thing came along, and I remembered I was angry about this thing. And I'm like, that sounds great. You're seeing all of that. And to kind of start seeing that and including that in Zazen actually is that is our path. Yeah, so the freedom that we have in Zen is right here and includes everything right here. And so that this is like this practice of being fully present. It's not like I'm getting rid of a bunch of stuff I don't like and then being fully present. And it's also not a kind of transactional thing. When I'm fully present, all the stuff I don't like will go away. It's like completely embracing the stuff, everything that's here. That's my life. That's this moment. And so Suzuki Roshi emphasized no gaining idea. It's also teaching in Dogen, but I think Suzuki Roshi really emphasized it. That this is how I'm present. If this moment's for the sake of another moment, I'm not fully here. This moment's like just completely for the sake of this moment. I'm not practicing to get anywhere. And this is, you could also say, trusting intimate presence. So I'm not being present as a strategy. It's not part of a program. It's not a, it's not it's not a step. It's not a mediation. It's the whole thing. Intimate presence. A willingness, a fuller and fuller willingness to be present and feel, thoroughly feel. So each of us, just as we are, spiritually whole, and this wholeness is not in contradiction to whatever pain and suffering are here. And so part of what I feel like we're doing in Zen is growing a kind of faith or trust and just being here and wholeheartedly being this person. And in a sense, maybe it's kind of a simple thing to just tune into the breath, to just feel into the body. And in a sense, that's it. And to do this with more and more trust. So if I'm tuning into my breath in a kind of transactional way or as part of a program, or if I'm feeling into my body in that way, I'm not fully trusting. I'm kind of, yeah, I'm using, or I'm kind of like, I'm kind of thinking, well, that can't be it. It's that and then. It's that to get over there. But totally being here as this like total trust in just being present. So tending to the breath, feeling into the body, being resourced by the light, by inherent wholeness, inherent belonging. Unconditional belonging of this person in the universe, and including, whatever parts of myself don't seem to fit, or whatever things I don't like, whatever imperfections, whatever odd particularities, all completely embraced and included. And I also see this like a deep befriending, and it's whatever's here. So I might have this intention, like I just want to be present, and then I might have lots of resistance to what I'm finding. Befriend the resistance. Include the resistance that is here. That is part of my wholeness. Like one way of talking about being here completely is unconditional love. So a love with no conditions. Nothing needs to change to be here. How friendly can I be with, like, whatever's hard right now? How am I fully here? To be with the breath, completely with the breath, to be with the breath the way the breath is with the breath, to be with the body the way the body is with the body, to be with pain the way pain is with pain, to be your posture, to be your breathing. So I'm relaxing into my body, I'm resting in the light. This isn't a knowing thing. I'm not being with my breath the way knowing regards my breath. I'm not being in the body that the way knowing regards the body. I'm letting go of that knowing. I don't have to get rid of it. It just becomes part of the scenery. It's not the medium. And right here, I also want to bring up, I touch, well, I look at it as like a different kind of agency or power. An immediate embodied intimacy has this agency. It's not necessarily the agency of like I can control and manage something external to myself, which is sometimes how I want, we think of agency. But there's an agency of being part of this moment. And sometimes when I feel disempowered, I'm caught by separation, I'm caught by disconnection. I'm not in my body. And then things and events, people, certain actions, they can make me feel small and anxious and helpless. And growing intimate presence in my body, I can find agency and freedom right here. And when I'm intimate, nothing can make me feel small unless I give it that power. And when I'm intimate, no one can make me hate them unless I give them that power. So the light has a function in the world, but I can't grasp how it lives. In February, my son Loka, who's 13 years old, He got really bad pneumonia and other complications, and he was in the pediatric ICU for almost 2 weeks. And it was pretty scary and uncomfortable for him. And my partner, Sarah, she basically accompanied him the whole time. And I would go over for a few hours almost every day. And he loves video games. Normally, we have kind of like strict limits on video games, like 2 hours max on Saturday and Sunday. That's it. But in this situation, he's like attached to all these tubes. He didn't even stand up for like over a week. And there's breathing apparatus. It was not a fun place to be. And so, it's like, go for it. So basically all he did for the 2 weeks was rest and play video games. And I would visit. And so, and I would show up and I'd be really happy to see Loka. And I'd want to talk. How are you doing? Like, what's going on? But he'd just be like, oh, hi. And then like back to video games. And actually, I might ask him a question. I wouldn't even get a response, actually. I'd just be lucky if I got the hi. And I might try a few more times while I'm there. But pretty much, it was just like, he's just doing the video games. Like that seems to be taking up all of his attention. And so I'd leave eventually. And one time I said, and one day he was doing a little bit better. He'd gained, he just had more, life in him. He lost a lot he was losing weight and he just didn't look good. But he was doing better that day. And so I said, it was great to see you. And then he turned to me and like in all seriousness said, it was great to see you, Dad. And this is not the kind of thing he says normally. And it was striking because like I thought, I didn't even know you saw me. I don't know if he did see me until that moment, actually. Another time I touched his shoulder as I was about to leave, and he took my arm in both of his hands, and he said, are you coming back tomorrow? And I said, yeah, I'm coming back. I'll be here. And so up in my head, like in my thinking, in my knowing, I'm looking at agency and impact and communication, and kind of like, in terms of like, well, stuff I could know, like verbal communication, like an interchange. Like I say this and you say that, and like, okay, we've heard each other. But there's this other thing happening where just being there meant a lot to him. And he was in this scary, uncomfortable situation, and video games gave him some comfort, and also, just being there, accompanying him. It meant a lot to him, actually. So what do we offer? You know, and is it just in the stuff that I kind of manage? Is it just in what I do and say? Is it just in what I kind of like, apprehend? And that there can be a lot of agency and power and communication and sharing just by how we show up, aside from anything I might do or say from knowing and thinking. And this kind of speaks to me of this light and how this light lives in the world. So I might have a mindset to like fix or solve or change my suffering. And it's basically reactive. Right? Ends up perpetuating my suffering. And so what's a liberative movement? And so this is, to me, everyone has a light, and this inquiry, what is your light? This is about a liberative movement and a different ground or basis for my life. And trusting actually that intimacy with suffering is the liberative movement. Trying to get away from suffering is the reactive movement that actually ends up perpetuating the suffering. And so to face and feel rather than resist and deny as a kind of the pivot of freedom. And there's something of immeasurable value, like, right here in your life as it is, in this moment, without changing anything. And it can't be given or taken away or granted or withheld. And it can be appreciated. And it's the resource for how I could thrive in meeting hard stuff. And that the hard stuff actually shows me the depth and the meaning and the strength of my vow and my love. And it can bring us together. Like, I can't do this on my own. So the Sangha dimension is like the community dimension of our practice. And part of Zazen being like, and part of all practice, asking for help. And kind of that can be like literally asking for help, but also just like, just in Zazen, asking for help. And that gesture is actually not the response, and whether the response is what I expect or not, but the gesture of asking for help. That's this practice of everyone has a light. And so we're not just random slivers or accidental fragments of the universe. Each of us is a light, a wholeness. And our light, our wholeness, reflects the wholeness of the universe. And each of our wholenesses reflects each of our wholenesses. Yeah. Yeah. Each of us, yeah, is a light. All right. So I think there's time for anything you'd like to express. And it could be a question. I also just welcome, anything you'd like to bring up or share.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you, Charlie, for this talk. And I still remember you talk about radical friendliness.
Mm-hmm.
And I've noticed a couple of reflections on this in this current one. So is the friendliness liberative movement too, in your opinion? Like, is this like act of being friend like correlates with this liberative art and liberative movements? What do you think?
Yeah, but yeah, the way I want to talk about friendliness as a practice of Zazen is in my life, as I see it as a liberative movement. And so like and I see it especially with with the stuff that I might have a hard time with, like especially like fear or anxiety or grief or anger, that actually befriending is like the liberative movement, and befriending is becoming whole with these, the way I'm talking about befriending. and I'm not meaning befriending in a kind of way that might be indulgent, actually. When I befriend my anger, it's not that I'm just going to go and be angry. It's more like I have a friend, and one of my friends is anger, and I want to take care of my friend and and uh and walk with my friend through this life and help my friend, find helpful ways to, be expressed. And same with my fear, same with my anxiety. And to feel these completely, this kind of friendliness and this kind of embrace, and not having a kind of, I think we can have like a sneaky transactional kind of acceptance, which is like, I'll accept this so it'll go away. I'll accept this so it won't be a problem anymore. And that's not really friendly. That's not real friendliness. Real friendliness is like, I welcome you here forever.
Thank you for your talk today, Charlie. It was really wonderful to listen to you. In Zen, I feel like a lot of the times we talk about letting go and letting everything be that arises and don't push anything away. But in real life as well, sometimes outside of coming here every 2 weeks, it's very difficult. We have deadlines to meet. We have, some of us have work we have to wake up and go to and projects to finish. And I'm just wondering how you kind of reconcile being able to just let everything happen, but also in day-to-day life, being able to, go to, you've got to go to the doctor, you've got to go visit your son, you've got to go to life and to work, and you've got to put food on the table, and you've got to get all these things done. But at the same time, you just need to let everything happen. How do you not get too lazy? How do you not get too caught up in finishing tasks? And I was wondering if you had any thoughts about that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think practically speaking, there's a whole bunch of stuff we need to do, and it can be kind of like agenda driven, and and it's more difficult to be fully present when I'm involved in an activity that's getting something done. And so it's part of the reason I think like why we need zazen, like, or we need something. We need something where we can be totally unproductive. And actually that's the whole point of that's like this big part of what we're doing here is like, I'm going to give up being productive and getting anything done. And I'm going to be devoted to that. So this is this time I'm devoted to being present. And then there'll be the rest of my life where actually I'm constantly need to get things done. and and to start feeling that, and to start feeling like, what is it like to do something for the sake of getting it done? And I'm kind of like, when I'm totally doing that, I'm kind of trashing my life, right? If I'm just like getting through this activity to get to the place where it's done, I'm not appreciating the light or my life or what I'm doing. And so, to start tuning into that, start tuning into like, what do I really want? And that actually, yes, I'm like, I need to like put dinner on the table, and I need to do the dishes, and I need to get over to the hospital, and every step and every dish and every thing I'm cooking, like I can be present there. We are here together. I'm relating to this like dish, I'm relating to this food, I'm relating to, walking around New York City. And And like, and so yeah, just like every step of the way is this chance to be present. And they, and still, so it's hard, but I think I think we kind of have this like formal practice, dedicated time. I would recommend, I recommend developing a daily sitting practice if you haven't already. And sometimes people are too busy. And I would say I say to people, just 5 or 10 minutes even of time that, I'm going to devote myself to presence. And that helps us. And then also, but just bringing this and just bringing our intention and our intentionality to like, I want to be present. And I think, like a traditional contemplation in Zen is to remember we're not here forever. We're definitely going to die. And so if I'm living my life for the sake of another day, I'm eventually there's going to be no more days, so when do I show up for my life? And they're kind of the idea also here is like that it doesn't this is the perfect moment, whatever's happening, to be present. It doesn't get better or worse. It might get more or less comfortable, but from the point of view of liberation and the light and practice, this is perfect. This is perfect to practice. Every day is a good day to practice. Every moment's a good moment to practice, to be here. Does that speak to you?
That does. Thank you very much, Charlie.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Hi, Charlie. Hello, Santa Barbara. I have been recently working with and talking about finding my question, finding the organizing thing that keeps me practicing, even to the point of the question coming, why am I practicing? What is the practice doing? And watching that transactional impulse to get something out of it instead of just expressing this light. So I wanted to hear you talk a little bit more about questions. You started your talk with so many great questions. Each one was like a gem of this could be my organizing question. This could be my organizing question. And of course, Yunman came with a very good one. What is my light?
Yeah.
And it does require some faith that the light is there, whether it's dim and dark, but the faith that it's there. Then my question becomes, how do I bring it forth, or what am I doing? There's just so many good questions. And also I've been trying to encourage myself and people, try to find one that is not like a mantra, but is like a juicy investigation. Interrogation was a little much, but but anyway, I thought that you brought up all these questions, and then the koan you brought up, which is, the koan of our life, is a good question. So I'm just want to hear you talk a little bit about working with these questions and sort of landing, or just how you navigate that without getting too caught up in sort of the response.
Yeah, I love inquiry. I love questions in practice. I feel like I feel a lot of inquiry in Dogen's writing and his writing about practice. And I feel like he would ask all these questions that kind of, for me, these were practices like directing me into practice. He wasn't answering them. He doesn't want me to answer them. I don't want to answer them. They're like tools, or they're like kind of, here's where you dig, and just start digging, and like let that the inquiry is just like getting to work. And I also feel find like the question is actually Buddha nature, or the inquiry is Buddha nature expressing itself. And so, and like what brings me to practice is like something doesn't feel right about this experience of separation and isolation, and disconnection. Something doesn't feel right. That's Buddha nature. Buddha nature is saying that doesn't feel right. and but then it's coming up to this like, well, this experience of separation, and then how this experience of separation has been like woven into all my habits and all my, all my thinking and all my values, all my reactions, all my reactivity, my views. And so that's also where for me, the inquiry is sort of like coming up from this, like the light, and like, and it's sort of like, I feel like it sort of like wants me to appreciate the light, not be caught, and wants me to kind of, and live the light, express the light. And that these things are all kind of questions. And also that kind of like, or maybe they're questions, maybe there's an answer, but then the answer is just the answer of one moment. And it's still a question for the next moment, because there's no stopping. And the light's going. It's like incessant activity. It's never static. It's never passive. And we aren't. I think we could only be passive or static if we were separate and if we were things, but we're not things. We've never been things. We've always been, I'm a process. And it's like, yeah. And like, even if I think I'm doing nothing, every cell in my body is actually like involved in all sorts of like processes. Like I'm all process. Yeah. So so I love inquiry. I think it's great. And then I kind of feel like, I think answers are fine, but I kind of feel like, but they're not places to hang out. Like they're like, answers are beautiful when they arrive, and then they can just go on down the stream. Yeah.
Hi, Charlie.
Hi.
I'm curious about koans in your study with koans, and although I think you've answered my question a little bit, would you mind commenting a little bit about koans with us?
Well, so koans they're like basically there could be a story or a quote or something, or even just like some poetry. And if some Zen authority calls it a koan, it's a koan. and then a koan, and once you call something a koan, you're kind of saying, I kind of feel like when somebody calls something a koan, it's it kind of made it into an inquiry in a way, or they kind of said like, you might think you understand this, but like this is something to sit with. Like there's something here, like the light is here, and if you try to see it, it's dark and dim, but the light is here. And so to call something a koan is to kind of request a different kind of attention than just a kind of thinking conceptual approach. And so some koans are like just like, you can try thinking about them and they're just going to be walls. It's just like banging your head into a wall. And that's intentional. They're not for thinking. They're not for the thinking mind. And some actually are kind of wonderful things you could think about. And even then, though, actually, when we say it's a koan, kind of the invitation is let go of thinking. And then I would also say koans became the sutra of Zen. Like they're really like the heart of Zen teaching. And so then, so this goes back 1,000 years. And so over these past 1,000 years, and in different cultural contexts, China, Korea, Vietnam, Japan, people are picking up Zen koans, and they keep doing different things with them. So there's many different ways of working with koans. And so, for instance, like the koan study I did with Daniel Terragno, this is kind of like a kind of stream from the Diamond Sangha that also has basis in Japan and mostly Rinzai Zen. a way of working with koans. And it's usually involves studying many, many koans, one at a time. And then another way of studying a koan is to study one koan for your whole life. And this is also very common. And you're basically, it's kind of like an inquiry practice, but it's sort of it's like inquiry driven by like a cultivation of doubt or yearning to know, where you reject any resolution of the doubt. So anything that softens your question about this koan, and basically you want all of your questions and all of your doubt and about life to go into this doubt about this koan, and not let it resolve until everything resolves. And that's also a Rinzai approach, and also very important in Korean Zen. I think there are Soto Zen people who've done both of these over the centuries. But then Soto Zen, I'd say, is more informal. It's like koans are just like launching pads for inquiry and discourse. And like, you can do anything you want with a koan. You can play with it. It can be, and Dogen does really wild things with koans, that no one ever did before. and it's, and it's really interesting. And so he's an example of it. He's a really good example of that. If like, you just start with a koan and then see what happens. And like, can the koan be a way for the light to be turned and expressed and addressed?
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or statements or comments? Bill?
I have a comment. I was thinking about koans too throughout your talk, so MAB. And I don't know if it was intentional. Well, of course, your intention is a funny thing to play with. But I've been worried for the last 10 or 20 years that I've been doing Mu for 55, 60 years now. And I'm still doing it, and I'm waiting for the next question.
Yeah.
Because it was Robert Aiken's practice and Yastani's practice. So you just suddenly liberated me. It doesn't matter. I can live with Mu the rest of my life. Wow. It's done.
Talk about ending on a high note.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you for your attention.
Charlie. Charlie, you're of course welcome to stay with us. We'll do some announcements here and close with the 4 vows, but I think what I'll do is stop recording, and if I can figure out how to do that. There we go.